I caught my spoiled sister making out with my boyfriend a week before her wedding. I couldn't take it and called her fiancé. I thought he ignored it, but he made a huge announcement on the wedding day. Lydia had always been the star of the family. Growing up, she got the best of everything: attention, praise, gifts, and opportunities. I was always the other sister, the quieter one, content to stay in the background. It's not like I was jealous, at least not at first. Lydia was 2 years older, beautiful, and could charm anyone she met. It made sense that people gravitated toward her, that she could light up any room just by walking into it. But over time, her self-centeredness became harder to ignore. Our parents doted on her, giving in to her every whim. I learned to be the easy child, the one who didn't cause trouble or make demands. While Lydia threw tantrums to get what she wanted, I stayed quiet, watching her rack up wins while I faded into the background. When Lydia met James, I hoped that maybe, just maybe, she would mature. He was such a good guy, kind, thoughtful, and patient. Too patient, in my opinion. He put up with Lydia's high-maintenance attitude, her constant need for validation, and her endless demands for the perfect wedding. Still, I admired how much he loved her. He truly seemed to see the best in her, even when the rest of us struggled to. The months leading up to the wedding were nothing short of a whirlwind. Lydia, predictably, made it all about herself. She agonized over every tiny detail, from the floral arrangements to the color of the napkins. Our mother, thrilled to have her princess getting married, was all too happy to indulge her. I was the maid of honor. But really, I felt more like a glorified assistant. Every time I tried to suggest something, Lydia would brush me off, saying she had everything under control. I didn't complain. After all, it was her day. That's what I kept telling myself. Even as I spent hours running around to fix every little thing she suddenly decided wasn't perfect enough. Alex, my boyfriend of 3 years, was my rock through it all. He was there when I needed to vent, there to remind me that this would all be over soon. And in those moments, I was grateful to have someone who seemed to truly understand me. But then came the moment that shattered my carefully maintained world. It was a Tuesday afternoon, 6 days before Lydia's wedding. I was stopping by her apartment to drop off a few things she'd asked for: a custom garter, some bridesmaids' gifts, and the final touches for her centerpieces. Alex had said he would come by later to help me out. But when I walked in, I wasn't expecting to find him there already. I wasn't expecting to see my sister's lips pressed against his. My heart stopped. For a second, I thought I was imagining it. After all, Lydia had always been affectionate, even with my boyfriends. But this was different. The way she was clutching him, the intensity of their kiss, was unmistakable. This wasn't some flirty peck between siblings-in-law. It was betrayal, pure and simple. I don't remember how I reacted at first. My body went into autopilot. I just remember screaming, the kind of scream that rips from your throat without warning, fueled by shock, anger, and pain all at once. Lydia pulled away, her face twisted into annoyance rather than shame. "What are you doing here?" she snapped. Like I was the one in the wrong. Alex stepped back, guilt washing over his face. He stammered something, probably an excuse. But I didn't care. I wasn't listening. The betrayal stung too much. "How could you?" I spat at both of them. My hands were shaking, and I could feel the hot tears welling up in my eyes. "A week before your wedding. Lydia, my boyfriend?" Lydia shrugged, a smirk tugging at her lips. "Relax. It's not like you two are married." I could have hit her. The audacity, the smugness, it was too much. I turned on my heel and stormed out, not trusting myself to say or do anything that wouldn't make things worse. The drive home was a blur. I called my best friend, Megan, sobbing into the phone as I recounted what I had just witnessed. She was outraged, of course. But she also didn't know what to say. What could anyone say in that situation? It was a mess. For the next few days, I avoided both Alex and Lydia. I stayed locked in my apartment, struggling with what to do. I loved Alex, at least. I thought I did. But could I forgive him for something like this? Could I ever trust him again? And what about Lydia? How could she do this to me? Then there was James, sweet, unsuspecting James, who had no idea the woman he was about to marry was capable of such cruelty. I thought about him constantly, wondering if I should tell him the truth. But every time I picked up my phone to call him, I froze. What if I ruined his wedding? What if Lydia found out and never forgave me? What if no one believed me? But I couldn't stay silent forever. The weight of the secret was too heavy to bear. On Friday, Just 2 days before the wedding. I dialed James's number. "Hey, it's me," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Hey, what's up?" he replied, sounding cheerful, like he had no idea his entire world was about to implode. I hesitated, unsure how to begin. Finally, I just said it. "I need to tell you something, about Lydia." There was a pause. "Okay," he said slowly. "What's going on?" I took a deep breath and told him everything. I didn't leave anything out: the kiss, Lydia's dismissive attitude, Alex's guilt-ridden face. By the time I finished, my hands were shaking, and my heart was racing. James was silent for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, too calm. "Thanks for telling me," he said quietly. "I'll handle it." Handle it? That's all he had to say? I hung up, feeling more confused than ever. What did he mean by that? Was he going to call off the wedding? Confront Lydia? Was he mad at me for telling him? The next day, I was a ball of nerves. I barely slept, and I couldn't eat. Lydia, of course, acted like nothing was wrong. She was all smiles and excitement, talking about how perfect her wedding day was going to be. I avoided her as much as I could, not wanting to be anywhere near her. Finally, the wedding day arrived. The ceremony was set in a beautiful outdoor garden, complete with string lights and lush floral arrangements. Lydia looked stunning in her designer gown, her hair styled to perfection. She was the picture-perfect bride. But I knew the truth, and so did James. As I stood beside her at the altar, my stomach churned. I kept glancing at James, wondering if he was going to go through with it. He looked composed, but there was a tension in his jaw that I hadn't noticed before. Then, we reached the part of the ceremony where the officiant asked if anyone had any objections. My heart stopped. I held my breath, waiting for someone, anyone, to speak. But no one did. James remained silent, his eyes fixed on Lydia. For a moment, I thought he was going to let it all go. I thought he was going to marry her anyway. But then he raised his hand. "I have something to say," he announced, his voice steady, though I could see his hands trembling. Lydia turned to him, her smile faltering. "James," she whispered, panic creeping into her voice. James took a deep breath and turned to face the guests. "I can't marry you, Lydia," he said, his voice loud and clear. "Because a week ago, I found out that you've been unfaithful." The crowd gasped, and I felt the blood drain from my face. This was it. He was doing it. James didn't stop. He went on, telling everyone exactly what had happened: the kiss, Lydia's betrayal, and the reason he couldn't go through with the wedding. I stood frozen, my heart pounding in my chest as I watched Lydia's face go pale. She tried to deny it. Of course, she tried to grab his hand, to beg him to reconsider. But it was too late. James had made up his mind. He turned and walked out of the ceremony, leaving Lydia standing alone at the altar, her perfect day in ruins. And as for me, I felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time in my life, Lydia didn't get what she wanted. And the truth, well, it was finally out.